I'm running out of time, so I think you should stop with your continuous interruptions, in my opinion.
May I respond, Chairman?
Yes.
May I respond?
Yes, you may respond. Then Senator Kennedy.
Thank you. The double standard is crystal clear, Senator Hirono, crystal clear, because you didn't complain for 4 years when President Trump was being targeted by Jack Smith, by the last Justice Department. But the American people spoke loud and clear when they overwhelmingly elected him. If I can finish, Gail Slater is doing an incredible job running my antitrust unit.
It's highly likely, Ms. Bondi, that the same lobbyists who met with your people and basically got rid of the antitrust case.
Senator, I don't think a lot of people like that you were out protesting with Antifa
right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to America First. If this is your first time here, make sure you smash that like button right now and hit subscribe, because we're bringing you the truth that the mainstream media won't tell you. We're going to break down what's really happening in Washington while everyone else is busy pushing their narrative. Today we're talking about Attorney General Pam Bondi's recent testimony before the Senate, and folks, what I witnessed was absolutely disgraceful. So stick around, because this is going to be good.
Potential Biden family criminal conduct. Senator Johnson and I made these two public, and we simply want to know whether the government has investigated what it found, and if not, why not? Senator Hirono.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, FISA Section 702 will expire in 6 months. In response to my questions for the record, at your confirmation hearing, you said you did not have experience with FISA, but if confirmed, you would consult with experts at DOJ. Now, you've had that opportunity. Do you support adding additional safeguards for searching Americans' communications in the 702 database?
Senator, Section 702 is a vital source of foreign intelligence and instrumental in keeping Americans safe. We also take individuals' rights of their individual rights of all Americans very seriously. And many statutory reforms to FISA have incorporate safeguards. They have to incorporate safeguards to protect our civil liberties. The Department of Justice looks forward to working with you to discuss anything regarding 702.
Appreciate that.
I believe my staff, and Senator, I also want to thank you for this hearing. Your staff met with my staff, and I greatly appreciate that.
Thank you. We're going to be working on 702, so I appreciate the openness to further amending 702. At your confirmation hearing, you assured me that it is the Department of Justice's decision to determine what cases will be prosecuted. Last month, the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia was forced out. President Trump then posted the message behind me asking about prosecuting James Comey. You then appointed a new U.S. attorney who within days secured an indictment against James Comey. That social media post behind me saying, "What about Comey?" was directed to Pam. Are you the Pam that the president was referring to?
I'm sure I was.
So it's very clear to me that when the president posts something like that, that he considers the DOJ to be his law firm and you his lawyer. And in fact, very shortly after the post to you, Comey gets indicted. Last year, President Trump's new border czar, Tom Homan, was videotaped taking a bag with $50,000 in cash from undercover FBI agents, after suggesting he could help with government contracts. Sounds like a bribe. 2 weeks ago, DOJ officials reportedly shut down the bribery investigation into Mr. Homan. Ms. Bondi, did you approve closing the Homan investigation, bribery investigation?
Just get rid of that. Senator Hirono, as I stated earlier, the Department of Justice and the FBI conducted a thorough review, and they found no credible evidence of any wrongdoing. You were also on video outside the White House protesting with a group called CASA where Antifa members were. Does that mean you're a member of Antifa?
You know, I simply asked the question as to whether or not you approve the shutting down of the investigation, Mr. Holman. I have to assume that you did because the FBI reports to you. But the American people would look at the situation where this person is taking a $50,000 in cash, no less, and you testified today that a thorough investigation was done. Now, I have to assume, I conclude, that since no wrongdoing was determined, that in answer to Senator Whitehouse's question, he kept the money. He kept the money, and I hope that he put that on his tax returns as income. Next question. Over 1,200 rioters were convicted of charges related to January 6th. President Trump has since pardoned nearly all of them. As if that weren't enough, last month there were reports that a lawyer for the January 6 rioters met with senior DOJ officials about setting up a compensation fund like the one that Congress set up after 9/11 to compensate these rioters. Ms. Bondi, is anyone at DOJ considering setting up a compensation fund for January 6 rioters? Yes or no?
Senator, I have had no meetings or discussions about a fund.
So would you support such a fund? Would you okay such a fund?
Senator, you can send me the information on the fund, and I'd be happy to look at it.
No, but do you think that's a good idea this is what I'm getting at. Because to actually set up a fund and to have people talking with your senior people at DOJ, political people, about creating a fund, and you won't let us know what you think about that, that's pretty unbelievable. On January 30th of this year, the Trump DOJ's Antitrust Division sued to block the merger of two tech companies. Then, well-connected lobbyists met with your political deputies who overruled the career staff and approved the merger. So there's a settlement on that. And separately, DOJ sued Ticketmaster last year for monopolizing concert tickets and forcing consumers to pay outrageous fees. Ticketmaster has hired the exact same lobbyists who met with senior DOJ political people regarding the merger of the two tech companies. So my question is, Ms. Bondi, have lobbyists met with your political deputies about the Ticketmaster case?
Senator Hirono, as I stated earlier, I am not going to discuss anything that is ongoing. Gail Slater runs the Antitrust
I would
office,
say
and
that-
Gail
that-
Slater, if I can finish, Gail Slater is doing an incredible job running my antitrust unit.
It's highly likely, Ms. Bondi, that the same lobbyists who met with your people basically got rid of the antitrust case.
Senator, I don't think a lot of people
I
like
would
that
say
you were out
they're probably
protesting
meeting
with
you
Antifa.
right now. Next question. You have fired dozens of career prosecutors because they worked on cases involving President Trump or January 6 rioters. For example, one career federal prosecutor who secured over 100 convictions in Florida. He also spent time in D.C. prosecuting January 6 cases. He received an outstanding review only 2 days before you signed a memo firing him. The memo cited no reason for his firing. Are you firing career prosecutors solely because they worked on cases like January 6th that the president doesn't like?
Senator Hirono, I am not going
Yes
to talk
or no?
about personnel matters with you.
Well, we all know that hundreds of career prosecutors have left the DOJ, and literally hundreds, we're told.
Yeah, Senator, are you
the
familiar with the one
DOJ
that threw a
has
sandwich
lost-
at an ICE officer? Are you a Homeland Security officer?
is the
Are you familiar
reason-
with the one who went out on her lunch break and was
Ms. Bondi,
making obscene gestures?
Would you say that DOJ losing these career prosecutors and the thousands of hours of experience they have prosecuting criminals, that is not a reassuring situation.
Senator, many employees took the fork in the road and resigned. DOJ is hiring committed prosecutors who will actually come into the office and work and not work remotely and
think we all
prosecute
know
violent
that-
criminals around the country and terrorists. And
When
I
you-
am very proud
you
of the
fire
work all of our prosecutors
I'm running out
are
of
doing.
time, so I think you should stop with your continuous interruptions, in my opinion. Mr. Chairman, I just want to close by saying that what was once the Department of Justice has become the Department of Revenge and Corruption. Rather than pursuing cases without fear or favor, this DOJ seeks to favor the president's friends and instill fear in his alleged enemies. If you're a friend of the president, this corrupt DOJ will bend over backwards to help you, just like it dropped the bribery investigation of Tom Homan, like it's considering paying money to January 6 rioters, and like it has put antitrust enforcement decisions in the hands of well-connected lobbyists. But if you're on the wrong side of this president, you will face the wrath of DOJ, no matter what the facts, law, or justice support. James Comey is indicted days after the president's social media directive. Experienced career prosecutors are fired just because they were assigned to work on January 6 cases. Blue states are sued to get highly sensitive private voter data, whereas red states are left alone. The double standard is clear, and the American people are waking up to the corruption and favoritism and the lawlessness at the DOJ. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
May I respond, Chairman?
Yes.
May I respond?
Yes, you may respond. Then Senator Kennedy.
Thank you. The double standard is crystal clear, Senator Hirono, crystal clear, because you didn't complain for 4 years when President Trump was being targeted by Jack Smith, by the last Justice Department. But the American people spoke loud and clear when they overwhelmingly elected him. The two-tier system of justice is over.
Senator Kennedy. Me? Yes.
General, welcome. Let's suppose that I'm appointed special counsel at the.
Let me set the stage for you. We have Attorney General Pam Bondi, a woman who has dedicated her life to law enforcement and justice, sitting before Senator Mazie Hirono from Hawaii. And what we witnessed was not a hearing, it was a politically motivated attack. It was a circus. It was everything that's wrong with Washington politics today. Senator Hirono came into that hearing room with one objective and one objective only: to grandstand, to create sound bites for the liberal media, and to attack the Trump administration. She had absolutely no interest in the truth. Now, before we get into the specifics, let's talk about who Senator Mazie Hirono really is. This is a senator who has made a career out of being one of the most partisan voices in Washington. She's not interested in bipartisan solutions. She's not interested in actually making America safer or better. She's interested in scoring political points with the far left base of the Democratic Party. Remember, this is the same senator who has consistently opposed every single Trump nominee, who has pushed for open borders, who has supported defunding the police, and who has been one of the loudest voices trying to undermine this administration at every single turn. So when Senator Hirono starts a questioning by bringing up FISA Section 702, you already know where this is going. Attorney General Bondi gave a completely reasonable response. She acknowledged that Section 702 is vital for foreign intelligence gathering. It keeps Americans safe from terrorist threats. It helps us monitor foreign adversaries. But she also emphasized that the Department of Justice takes civil liberties seriously and that they've incorporated safeguards to protect Americans' rights. That's a balanced, thoughtful response from someone who actually understands the complexities of national security. But that wasn't good enough for Senator Hirono. Nothing is ever good enough for these Democrats because they're not actually interested in solutions. They're interested in political theater. Then we get to the James Comey situation, and this is where Senator Hirono really shows her true colors. She brings up a social media post from President Trump asking about James Comey and tries to paint this picture that Attorney General Bondi is just taking orders from the president, that she's his personal lawyer, that the Department of Justice is his law firm. This is absolutely absurd, and let me tell you why. First of all, James Comey deserves to be investigated. Let's not forget what James Comey did. This is a man who leaked classified information to the media. This is a man who signed off on FISA warrants that were based on fraudulent information to spy on the Trump campaign. This is a man who admitted under oath that he orchestrated leaks specifically designed to trigger the appointment of a special counsel to go after President Trump. James Comey is not some innocent victim here. He's someone who weaponized the FBI for political purposes. For 4 years, we watched as the previous administration and their allies in the Justice Department went after President Trump with everything they had. They launched investigation after investigation. They appointed special counsel Jack Smith, who brought charges against a former president for the first time in American history. They raided Mar-a-Lago. They indicted Trump on multiple counts in multiple jurisdictions. And where was Senator Hirono then? Was she complaining about political prosecutions? Was she worried about the Department of Justice being weaponized? Absolutely not. She was cheering it on. Attorney General Bondi made this point brilliantly in her response. She called out the hypocrisy directly. The double standard is crystal clear. Democrats had no problem when the Justice Department was targeting President Trump for 4 straight years. They had no problem when special counsels were appointed. They had no problem when prosecutors were digging through every aspect of Trump's life looking for something, anything they could use against him. But now that we have an attorney general who's actually interested in equal justice under the law, now they're suddenly concerned about politicization. Give me a break. The American people see through this. That's why they elected President Trump in overwhelming numbers. That's why Republicans took back control. The people are tired of the two-tier system of justice where Democrats and their allies get away with everything while Republicans are held to an impossible standard. Now, let's talk about the Tom Homan situation because this is another perfect example of Senator Hirono trying to create a scandal where none exists. She brings up this old story about Tom Homan allegedly taking $50,000 in cash from undercover FBI agents. She tries to make it sound like some kind of smoking gun corruption case. But here's what she conveniently leaves out. The Department of Justice and the FBI conducted a thorough investigation and found no credible evidence of wrongdoing. None. Zero. Think about what that means. Career FBI agents, career prosecutors, people who've been doing this work for decades, looked at this case from every angle and determined there was nothing there. But Senator Hirono doesn't care about that. She doesn't care about the facts. She doesn't care about the investigation. She just wants to throw mud and hope some of it sticks. And then she has the audacity to compare Tom Homan being at a location where some Antifa members were present to Attorney General Bondi's situation. This is insane. Tom Homan is a patriot who has dedicated his life to protecting our borders and enforcing our immigration laws. He's been threatened by Antifa. He's been targeted by the radical left. And Senator Hirono is trying to somehow link him to Antifa? This is the kind of dishonest, bad faith argumentation that makes Americans disgusted with Congress. Attorney General Bondi handled this perfectly. She didn't take the bait. She stated the facts calmly and moved on. That's leadership. Then we get to January 6th, and this is where Senator Hirono really goes off the rails. She talks about the over 1,200 people who were convicted of charges related to January 6th. She acts outraged that President Trump has pardoned many of them. She brings up this alleged compensation fund and tries to make it sound like we're rewarding rioters. Let's set the record straight on January 6th. Yes, there were people who broke the law that day, and they should face consequences. But there were also hundreds of Americans who did nothing more than walk through open doors at the Capitol. They were waved in by Capitol Police. They took selfies. They walked around. They committed no acts of violence. And yet they were hunted down by the FBI. Arrested in dawn raids, held in solitary confinement, denied bail, and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Many of them got sentences that were longer than violent criminals get for assault or robbery. That's not justice. That's political persecution. And the American people know it. President Trump was absolutely right to review those cases and pardon people who were treated unfairly. That's not corruption. That's mercy. That's recognizing that our justice system was weaponized against American citizens for political reasons. And as for this compensation fund that Senator Hirono keeps bringing up, Attorney General Bondi made it clear she hasn't had any meetings about it. But even if such a fund were being discussed, would that really be so crazy? We're talking about people who lost their jobs, lost their homes, lost years of their lives because they were prosecuted in a politically motivated witch hunt. If they were wrongly convicted or excessively punished, shouldn't there be some mechanism to make them whole? The government pays out settlements all the time when it violates people's rights. Why should January 6 defendants be any different? But of course, Senator Hirono doesn't want to have that conversation because it would require her to acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, the previous administration went too far in its treatment of these Americans. Now let's talk about the antitrust issues, because this is another area where Senator Hirono is just completely off base. She brings up this merger case and tries to insinuate that lobbyists are running the Department of Justice, that decisions are being made based on who has connections rather than on the merits. This is rich coming from a Democrat. Let's be honest about who really has cozy relationships with big tech and corporate lobbyists. It's not Republicans. It's Democrats. For years, we watched as the Obama administration and then the Biden administration let big tech run wild. They allowed these companies to censor conservative voices. They allowed them to interfere in elections. They allowed them to grow into monopolies that crush competition. And Democrats did nothing because big tech was donating to their campaigns and supporting their political agenda. Now we have an attorney general and an administration that's actually willing to take on monopolies, that's willing to look at these mergers with a critical eye, that's willing to hold companies like Ticketmaster accountable for ripping off consumers. And what do Democrats do? They attack. They claim corruption. They claim lobbyists are running the show. It's projection pure and simple. Attorney General Bondi was right not to discuss ongoing investigations with Senator Hirono. That's the proper way to handle these situations. You don't litigate cases in congressional hearings. You don't give away your strategy to senators who are going to run to the media with it. You do your work, you follow the law, and you let the results speak for themselves. And speaking of Gail Slater, who's running the Antitrust Division, she's doing incredible work. She's someone who actually understands these issues. She's not beholden to big tech. She's focused on protecting consumers and promoting competition. That's exactly what we need. Then Senator Hirono brings up the firing of career prosecutors, and this is where her hypocrisy reaches new heights. She acts devastated that prosecutors who worked on January 6 cases are being let go. She talks about all their experience and expertise. But let's think about this logically. If you have prosecutors who spent years pursuing political prosecutions, who were part of a system that weaponized the Justice Department against American citizens, is it really so surprising that a new administration might want fresh blood? Is it really so terrible to bring in prosecutors who are committed to equal justice rather than partisan witch hunts? Attorney General Bondi made an excellent point in her response. Many of these employees chose to resign. They took the fork in the road. Nobody forced them out. They decided they didn't want to be part of an administration that actually enforces the law fairly. And frankly, if these prosecutors can't handle working for an administration that doesn't share their political views, maybe they shouldn't be career government employees in the first place. The Department of Justice should be hiring people who are committed to the mission, who are willing to come into the office and work, who want to prosecute violent criminals and terrorists and corrupt politicians regardless of party. That's what Attorney General Bondi is building. And if that means some of the old guard decides to leave, so be it. Senator Hirono's closing statement was absolutely disgraceful. She calls the Department of Justice the Department of Revenge and Corruption. She claims there's a double standard where friends of the president get favorable treatment while enemies get targeted. This is Orwellian-level projection. This is taking exactly what Democrats did for 4 years and accusing Republicans of doing it. Let's review the actual double standard here. Under the Biden administration, Hunter Biden got a sweetheart plea deal for serious federal crimes. He only faced real consequences after public outrage forced the Justice Department to take another look. Hillary Clinton deleted 33,000 emails under subpoena and faced no charges. James Comey leaked classified information and faced no charges. Andrew McCabe lied to investigators and faced no charges. Peter Strzok and Lisa Page exchanged texts about stopping Trump from becoming president and faced no real consequences. But Trump and his associates? Paul Manafort got sent to solitary confinement. Roger Stone had his home raided by a SWAT team with CNN cameras rolling. Michael Flynn had his life destroyed for a phone call that wasn't even illegal. President Trump himself was indicted in 4 different jurisdictions on charges that had never been brought against any other politician in American history. That's the real double standard. That's the real two-tier system of justice. And Attorney General Bondi is absolutely right that it's over. The American people voted for change. They voted to drain the swamp. They voted to end the weaponization of government against political opponents. When Attorney General Bondi said the two-tier system of justice is over, she was speaking truth. And you could see it made Senator Hirono uncomfortable because she knows it's true. She knows that for years Democrats have gotten away with corruption and abuse of power while Republicans were held to impossible standards. And now that's changing. This hearing was a perfect microcosm of what's wrong with Washington. You have dedicated public servants like Pam Bondi who are trying to do their jobs, trying to restore integrity to our institutions, trying to ensure equal justice under the law. And you have partisan politicians like Senator Mazie Hirono who are more interested in grandstanding and creating viral moments than actually solving problems. Attorney General Bondi conducted herself with professionalism and dignity throughout this entire hearing. She didn't get rattled. She didn't take the bait. She answered questions when appropriate and declined to discuss matters that shouldn't be litigated in public when necessary. That's exactly what we need from our Attorney General. Compare her demeanor to Senator Hirono's constant interruptions, her smug accusations, her attempts to score cheap political points. Who looked more professional? Who looked more interested in actual justice? The answer is obvious. I also want to address Senator Hirono's ridiculous Antifa comment. When Attorney General Bondi pointed out that Senator Hirono was photographed at an event where Antifa members were present, Hirono tried to act like that was some kind of outrageous accusation. But here's the thing, if we're going to play the guilt by association game, Democrats lose every single time. We have receipts of Democrats supporting bail funds for Antifa rioters. We have receipts of Democrats calling violent riots peaceful protests. We have receipts of Democrats refusing to condemn political violence when it comes from the left. So for Senator Hirono to clutch her pearls when someone points out she was at an event with Antifa is laughable. She was fine with that association when she thought it would help her politically. She only objects now because it's being used to show her hypocrisy. The bottom line is this. Attorney General Pam Bondi is doing exactly what she was appointed to do. She's restoring the rule of law. She's ending the two-tier system of justice. She's making sure that the Department of Justice serves the American people, not the Democratic Party. And Democrats hate that because they've gotten so used to having the DOJ as their personal political weapon. For 4 years under Biden, we watched as the Justice Department was used to target parents at school board meetings, to raid the homes of pro-life activists, to prosecute political opponents, and to ignore crimes committed by Democrats and their allies. That era is over. And Senator Hirono's tantrum during this hearing is proof that Democrats know they've lost their grip on power. The American people spoke loudly and clearly in the last election. They're tired of corruption. They're tired of double standards. They're tired of Washington politicians who think they're above the law. They want accountability. They want equal justice. And they want leaders who will fight for them rather than fight to protect the swamp. That's what President Trump represents. That's what Attorney General Bondi represents. And that's why Democrats are so desperate to tear them down. I want to address one more thing before we wrap up. Senator Hirono kept bringing up these so-called experienced prosecutors who are leaving the Justice Department as if that's automatically a bad thing. But experience doesn't equal competence. And more importantly, experience doesn't equal integrity. If you have prosecutors who spent years participating in political prosecutions, who turned a blind eye to Democratic corruption while pursuing Republicans relentlessly, their experience is actually a liability, not an asset. What we need at the Justice Department are people with integrity, people who believe in the Constitution, people who will enforce the law equally regardless of politics. That's what Attorney General Bondi is building. Some of these so-called experienced prosecutors are the same people who pursued the Russia collusion hoax for years, even after it became clear there was no evidence. They're the same people who leak to the media constantly to damage the Trump administration. They're the same people who slow-walked investigations into Hunter Biden and other Democrats while fast-tracking anything related to Trump. Good riddance to them. The Justice Department will be better off without prosecutors who see their job as advancing a political agenda rather than enforcing the law. And let's talk about this claim that prosecutors are being fired just for working on January 6 cases. That's not what's happening. What's happening is that prosecutors who participated in what many Americans view as political persecution are being removed. There's a difference. If you spent years throwing the book at grandmothers who walked through open doors at the Capitol while letting Antifa rioters who burned down buildings walk free, maybe you shouldn't be shocked when a new administration decides you're not the right fit. The Department of Justice needs prosecutors who will go after violent criminals, whether they're on the left or the right. It needs prosecutors who will go after corrupt politicians, whether they're Democrats or Republicans. It needs prosecutors who understand that justice is supposed to be blind. Attorney General Bondi understands this. That's why she was chosen for this role. That's why President Trump has confidence in her. And that's why Democrats are terrified of her. This hearing also revealed something else important. Democrats have no real agenda. They have no solutions to offer. All they have is resistance and obstruction. Senator Hirono didn't ask a single question about how to make Americans safer. She didn't ask about strategies to combat violent crime or terrorism. She didn't ask about protecting the border or fighting the fentanyl crisis. All she wanted to do was create gotcha moments and generate headlines. That's not governance. That's political theater. And the American people are sick of it. We need more leaders like Pam Bondi who are willing to stand up to this nonsense, who are willing to call out hypocrisy, who are willing to defend the truth even when they're being attacked by partisan hacks. That takes courage. That takes conviction. And that's exactly what we're getting from this Attorney General. I'm excited about the direction the Department of Justice is heading. For the first time in years, we have an Attorney General who's actually interested in justice rather than politics. We have an Attorney General who will hold criminals accountable regardless of their political connections. We have an Attorney General who understands that the rule of law means everyone is subject to the same standards. Democrats can complain all they want. They can hold hearings. They can make speeches. They can run to CNN and MSNBC to whine about how unfair everything is. But the truth is on our side. The facts are on our side. And most importantly, the American people are on our side. That's why Donald Trump won. That's why Republicans are in power. And that's why Attorney General Pam Bondi will continue to do her job regardless of how much Democrats complain. So to wrap this up, what we witnessed in this hearing was a masterclass in two different approaches. On one side, you had Attorney General Pam Bondi, calm, professional, focused on the facts, committed to her mission. On the other side, you had Senator Mazie Hirono, partisan, combative, more interested in sound bites than solutions, desperate to protect the corrupt system that served Democrats for so long. The contrast couldn't be more clear. And I know which side I'm on. I'm on the side of equal justice. I'm on the side of the rule of law. I'm on the side of draining the swamp and holding corrupt politicians accountable. I'm on the side of Attorney General Pam Bondi and President Donald Trump. If you agree with me, make sure you like this video right now. Subscribe to America First so you don't miss any of our content. Share this video with everyone you know because we need to get the truth out there. The mainstream media certainly won't tell you what really happened in this hearing. They'll just run with Senator Hirono's talking points and pretend like she made some kind of compelling case. But we know better. We see through the lies. We recognize the hypocrisy. And we're not going to let them get away with it. The fight for America's future is happening right now. And it's going to take all of us speaking up, staying informed, and holding our leaders accountable. Attorney General Bondi is doing her part. President Trump is doing his part. Now we need to do ours. Stay strong, patriots. Keep fighting the good fight. And remember, the truth always wins in the end. Thanks for watching America First. I'll see you in the next one.